been blessed by the good fortunes right now.
We're being joined by Prairie View football royalty as we in the process of getting the former National Alumni Association president mic'd up. This guy, after his illustrious Prairie View football career, went on to a spectacular National Football League, led the American Football League at Russian a time or two. My good friend, Mr. Clem Daniels. Hey, Clem, man, welcome home.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Lem. This is wonderful. Wonderful to be back.
Let's make sure you get your mic. Mic
is working.
All right, Clem, welcome back home.
Lynn, this is just a wonderful day. It's a wonderful atmosphere. The stadium, they've done a great job in terms of putting this thing together. And we got two of the best teams in the Southwest right here at Prairie View on the hill.
Well, Clem, we want to ask you to stick around. We certainly want to get some input from one of the greatest football players in the history of this program, Clem Daniels, as Texas Southern is prepared to kick the ball off to the Panthers. Back deep to return the kick to the Panthers are the two Jack Yates High School products, Joshua Simmons along with Arthur Lockett. Texas Southern leading by a score 7-3, 1:25 remaining in the first quarter. Our special guest is Prairie View football royalty, and I said that without hesitation. We're speaking of Clem Daniels. We'll be visiting with him momentarily. Well, Clem, while we are waiting, I guess, on this television timeout, we'll come back to that in a second. Well, the kickoff is in the air. Either way, it's going to a Jack Yates High School product. In this case, it's Lockett. 10, 15, Lockett. And check that Simmons. Simmons crossed the 35 up to the 37-yard line. First down and 10 for the Panthers from that point.
Great return. We picked up from the 2-yard line, gets 35 yards on the kick return, and the Panthers are going to be set in very good position to counter this touchdown that they just gave up to the Tigers.
There's a flag on the field, and it's going to go against the Panthers, so that's going to take a sparkling return by Simmons back inside of the 20, back down in the neighborhood of the 10-yard line. Inside the 10. Well, Clem, I know you've always had a vested interest in this university, Prairie View A&M University, but when you first had the optics of the stadium, I know you had seen the renditions and so on and so forth, but when you had the first in-person optics of the stadium, your thoughts?
My first thought went to Coach Billy Nix, no question about that. And I understand that. I know he would love to have seen this. The magnificence of this whole stadium, this whole environment, this whole edifice here is just spectacular. There's no question about it.
Well, Green in the shotgun formation, takes step, looks left, throws, it is complete at the 23-yard line and struggling for extra yards, taking defenders with him across the 25, like Clem Daniels used to do up to about the 29. Was Quentin Bell.
Now, Quentin Bell has been that diamond in the rough that Coach Simmons is very fond of. He is fast as the Dickens, but he has the terminology of Roberto Duran sometimes, the hands of stone.
Bell, a 6'4" sophomore, as Green, this time a quick hitter complete in the left foot, 40, 45 up to the 46-yard line. Once again was that gentleman Quentin Bell for a substantial gain on the first down for the Panthers.
Two quick hitters, and Bell is going to be the counter to Derek Griffin because he is just as fast and just as tall as Griffin, and he's coming off to a great start right now.
A 15-yard pickup, the total offense, trips this side right. Panthers moving left to right as Green in the gut. Single back formation. Green looks right, throws right. It is caught in the right flat. And turning the ball upfield up to about the 46-yard line for the Panthers was wide receiver Jalen Martin.
All the defense for Texas Southern.
It looked like Jalen might have gotten away, might have thought his knee hit the ground when he caught that ball, but they didn't call it, so nonetheless.
2nd and 10, actually no gain, as we have a threat of inclement weather reappearing. We're down to 11 seconds remaining in the first quarter. Texas Southern lead by a score 7-3. It's timeout's called on the field. I don't know if what his officials saw lightning or what. We're about to find out.
The previous play is under review.
Yeah, they're going to review it. It looked like the knee hit the ground.
Yes.
But, I mean, it was tomato. It was no gain, so there's really nothing lost for the Panthers on this one.
Right.
Now, Clem, although you live in Oakland, California, you have had a hands-on approach with your alma mater, Prairie View A&M University, and the athletic department as well. But for that newer Panther fan, catch them up on your days as the national alumni president, and some of your highlights you reflect back on that service to this university.
Well, I finished my 4-year term as national president in 2005, and it was a wonderful experience for me. And one of the primary reasons that I finally came back to Texas was that I promised Coach Nix, who was my coach here at Prairie View, that I would come back after my business is slowed down and I divested many of the responsibilities I had in California. I'd come back and help them to put together a program that would be creditable, and whereas we could start the winning tradition, maintain the winning tradition here at Prairie View.
Now, Clem, a lot of newer Panther fans see Coach William Nix's name across a lot of these athletic venues. You played for the legendary Prairie View coach.
Yes.
What can you tell us about Coach Nix that these newer fans need to know about?
The primary thing, the most significant thing about Coach Nix is that he invested in people of honor, people who had integrity, people who had the abilities. A lot of the people, everybody on this coaching staff my senior year here was a previous head coach at some other university or college. But he said that he didn't worry about that. He said as long as they treated him fairly, and as long as they were honest with him, they showed them the max in terms of integrity, he was willing to bring them in because they had a lot to contribute to his program. And as a result of that, he was always successful. You know, he won 4 national championships while he was here, and he won 4 consecutive SWAC championships while he was here, along with about 4 more. So he did a magnificent job here at Prairie View, and his record will stand in infamy forever. No question about that.
We're visiting with one of the greatest football players in the history of Prairie View A&M University, Clem Daniels. As you said that, Clem, I thought about an interview I did with Eddie Robinson, the late great Grambling head football coach.
Yes.
And he mentioned to me that Billy Nix used to kick his behind regularly like he stole something. I mean, talk about the days when you guys, if I could use this expression, owned Grambling.
You know, a lot of people don't understand that, and a lot of people don't believe that. But it came to pass because, you know, Coach Eddie Robinson was very instrumental in getting his ball players into the National Football League. There's no question about that. But it didn't mean he had the best teams at Grambling. Because we put the hurting on him a lot during my tenure and even before my tenure and after my tenure here at Prairie View. But he had a great program. He was a great coach within his own right. There's no question about that. He did a magnificent job. I had the honor to sit with him. They put me into the SWAC Hall of Fame in 1992 down in New Orleans, and I had the chance. We were sitting together at that dinner, and I had a chance to really get to know him and to really pump him to get a lot of the expertise and knowledge that he had in terms of football. And he was just a magnificent person, a magnificent coach. And every coach, every player that ever played for Eddie Robinson revered him and still do to this day, just as we all have done to Coach Nix.
Well, Clem and Mike, we have another weather delay. We saw some lightning out there in the distance. And, of course, NCAA regulations mandate that anytime there's lightning within a certain radius of the football game must be halted.
Yes, sir. It's a 4-mile radius that is done. They do that on the UIL level for the high schools as well. So anytime it's within a 4-mile radius, and you got the weather indicating that we're going to possibly have another storm. But I always say, Coach Clem, if you allow me to say it that way, it doesn't rain in Prairie View. I know they say it doesn't rain in California, but it doesn't rain in Prairie View.
All right.
It'll come for a season and it'll matriculate on down the road.
Yes.
Well, Clem, you picked a perfect time for us to really have the proper conversation with you now that we're in a weather delay. For the Panther fans may have just tuned in, we're in the midst of our second weather delay. It's 36 seconds remaining in the first quarter. Texas Southern leading Prairie View by a score of 7-3. Our guest is Clem Daniels, one of the greatest players in the history of Prairie View A&M University. This gentleman went on to an illustrious National Football League career, a former National Alumni Association president, and a guy that's been a big contributor to the athletic program probably ever since he left this university. This gentleman also played for the legendary Prairie View football coach Billy Nix. Now, Clem, to win a national championship, man, we're talking about the whole country. And we're talking about you guys competing against football players that did not have the opportunity to go to white universities yet. So you had this deluxe or the surplus of talent on HBCUs like Prairie View, like Grambling that you talked about a second ago, Jackson State, Texas Southern, etc. But talk about that trek, man, to actually become the best team in the country during the time that your greatest black players were going to black schools.
It's true, no question about it. I've been asked that question many times in regards to that. And I always say, I know one guy from Sports Illustrated asked me the question many years ago. He said, what was it like being at Prairie View during the mid-50s and the late 50s when you were in school? I said, well, if you take a Clem Daniels and a Gale Sayers, and you take guards like Jim Otto, centers and guards, linemen, and the top linemen in the National Football League when they were in college. I said, that's how it was at Prairie View when I was at Prairie View. We had 180 guys out for the team my freshman year at Prairie View. Had two teams, A section and B section. Had 80 guys and in one group and 80 in another group. There was 160 guys out there. And we used to run sprints the first week we were there. Johnny Payton was the captain of the team that year. Okay. And he said, fullback, step forward. I stepped forward, and I looked to my right. There was about 8 or 9 guys. I looked to my left. It was about 10 or 12 guys. I said, we didn't have these guys on my high school football team.
From McKinney.
But when it said set, go, and I ran about 30 yards, and I looked to my right, and I saw one guy. I looked to my left, and I didn't see anybody. I said, well, I'm in pretty good stead.
So you're in pretty good stead.
I'm in pretty good stead. But we had a lot of talent here at Prairie View. Coach Nix, there's one thing about Coach Nix. Coach Nix made sure that the cream of the crop he had, but he made sure all of them graduated.
Yes,
made
sir.
Sure that always we were commanded to get good grades, to maintain ourselves academically. And I'll tell you just how strong that was under Coach Nix. And in 1988, when Prairie View cut their football program,
yes, sir.
Texas A&M was very concerned about their program up there. They had just hired Jackie Sherrill, and they were trying to find out how they could get a corner on the black athletes in the state of Texas. But what they found out was that 70% of all the black high school coaches in the state of Texas were Prairie View graduates.
Yes, sir.
And that's a testimony, and that's a testament to the quality of athletes that we had here at Prairie View from an academic standpoint. And as far as athletics, it was the best in the world.
Now
you couldn't.
Go ahead, finish.
You couldn't have asked for a more competitive group of athletes when I was here. In fact, I came in here from a single A school. We had double A and triple A schools here. The teams in Phyllis Wheatley, San Antonio, and Jack Yates, and Phyllis and Wheatley and Houston, this kind of thing. But Coach Nix knew that just because you went to a larger school didn't mean that you were the best athlete. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And he had people coaches out here, high school coaches, that he could pick up the phone and call. Said, this boy you got up there, I want him at Prairie View. He didn't even have to leave his office. He knew you could get him.
Yes, sir.
because he had the children out here, and the players who had graduated from Prairie View and who had coached in high school, their first loyalty was to Prairie View.
Yes, sir.
And that was an outstanding testament to him and the job that he had done. So, and as a result of that, we were able to maintain the competitive edge from all the historic HBCU schools across the Southern Belt and all the Midwest and the Eastern Seaboard, Morgan State and all of those schools.
Yes,
so
sir.
we were able to compete, and SWAC was the strongest conference in the country as far as HBCU schools at the time, right up to today. No question about that. Still is.
Now,
So,
Coach, you hit on something just a while ago. I came to Prairie View in 1988.
Okay.
So I was actually a part of that change, if you will.
Right.
And as a student athlete here myself, I played baseball, and I was all-conference baseball player.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember them gathering us together and telling us that we're going to be at a challenge. At that time, our athletic budget for every sport on this campus was $800,000.
yes.
Which is nothing.
Nothing.
It's absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
But I remember being a young communications major and everything, and I was really adamant at the time. They were boasting a university down the road, University of Houston, and how they did this big write-up in the Houston Chronicle at that time about how they were leading the state of Texas with a 56% student athlete graduation rate.
Yeah.
I wrote this beautiful essay, at least I thought it was a beautiful essay, and talking about how we have 78% student graduating, and we were working under harsh conditions, but because we love this university, we love to compete, we were still producing productive people. Never got a response back. I can remember being a young man, unfortunately, you're a Raiders fan, I was a Steelers fan, and I can remember my dad giving me the Steelers roster. At that time, you were on a team, and you stayed on that team for a long time.
Yes.
And he would have me look through the teams on the NFL, and there were a lot of HBCU schools that these rosters were filled up with. Some schools I had never heard of.
Yes.
And he was saying, you don't have to go to these big places to be seen.
That's right.
He said the quality that you want to do is pull an education out of this thing, which is why, for me personally, when I hear the school song, I know the blood, sweat, and tears that it took to get us to that point, and I can't help but get emotional sometimes, not to the point where I'm hysterical or anything, but the pride that comes with putting on that purple and gold.
I knew from the start, from my first day here, what it took in order to establish and maintain the true tradition of this institution, and we've always striven to maintain that. Even when I left and I came back in 1988 to help to reestablish this program, then I realized that in order for me to do a maximum job of reestablishing that program, we had to have the maximum support of the National Alumni Association. And after a year of trying to put that together, that link together, I realized that I had to have more control. So that's when I ran for the national president of the Alumni Association.
Yes, sir.
And I won. I ran and I won. And after that, we put together a strategic plan to get the major chapters across the country of the Prairie View Alumni Association to support us. And we set objectives for each chapter: D.C., here in Houston, Dallas, Chicago, and about 7 chapters, whereas they would raise extra number of dollars for us to increase the scholarship. And within 3 years, we increased the scholarships from 15 scholarships to 65 scholarships.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And from that point on, and then we got the support of other institutions in terms of recruiting and this kind of thing, and we brought the program back. And then we hired Henry Frazier, who we felt was the best applicant person for that head coaching job. And I had a lot of Prairie View people that didn't want us to hire Frazier because they wanted to hire a Prairie View man.
Because they say he was a Yankee.
Yeah. So but I told him, I said, look, I don't care where he went to school. I don't care where he's from.
Yes,
I said,
sir.
what I want to know is, can he coach?
Yes, sir. Yes,
and
sir.
if he can coach, he's the man that I want. And after doing an analysis there in terms of the Final Four, we selected Henry Frazier, and Charles McCullum was here as our athletic director at the time, so we were able to put all of that together and put the pieces together, and we hired him. And after the third year, he was contending for the conference championship.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So,
yes, sir.
But it's that kind of innovativeness, it's that kind of dedication. And I know the first year I took over as national president of the Alumni Association, I made 14 trips down here out of my pocket, because we didn't have the money in the alumni budget to do it. So I had to spend my money to do it, but I didn't hesitate to do it. But we put together the deal, and we put together the program, and we were able to bring this program back, and we've been on the runs ever since.
Yes, sir. Now, I, too, am a member of the National Alumni Association, lifetime member, but I still pay dues and support wherever needs to be done.
Right.
Being that you were on the inside of this track, if you will, and a lot of people are seeing this stadium right now, and they're taking this collective sigh of relief right now, thinking that it's really done. But really, the work is just begun.
Just beginning.
And what's the message that you give? Because the challenge that I'm pretty sure that is nationwide, we're Prairie View proud. We're Prairie View strong. Over 60,000 graduates from this university, and there's a challenge of getting them to give back like they should. What would be your Macedonia cry right now?
Numbers count. You have to have maximum participation from all alums across this country in order to maximize our potential here at Prairie View. There's no question about it. We're not even close to where we should be. We're not even close where we have to be in order to make this thing a success. So we just have to keep hampering on the idea that every alum must give back, must get involved, must participate, and in order for us to do that, we have to get out in the community and come up with a strategic plan to go to all four corners of this country to pick our alumni and to impress upon them the importance of participating, because it's very essential that we do. I'll give you a good story in regard to that. My daughter went to Tuskegee University in Alabama. Her sophomore year there, I went down to their homecoming. After the homecoming, she has cousins there in Montgomery, which is 40 miles south of Tuskegee. And we went down for dinner that night, and I was taking her back to the campus about 11 o'clock that night. And we got to the freeway and returned on the freeway going to Tuskegee. On the opposite side of the freeway, there were 4 lanes, because I don't know if you've been to the Southern Beltline. We got 4-lane highways, all three, and you can see for miles. And there was 4 lanes, and there was back-to-back traffic in those 4 lanes coming at me. I'd never seen anything like that. And I asked my daughter, I said, what is all this traffic? She said, they are from Auburn, which is further down the road, 10 miles further down the other side of Tuskegee. And it was their alums that had left Auburn going back home.
Wow.
And it was the most magnificent thing. I used to tell our alumni, we have to support our own. My goodness.
Well, I mean, Coach Henry Frazier just walked into the broadcast.
Here's my man.
I knew that was going to have some kind of effect on Clem Daniels.
Beautiful.
I see some
My goodness.
Well, let me just pause for a second, Clem. For those who just tuned in, we are in the midst of a weather delay, our second weather delay of this afternoon. We're in the first quarter, 36 seconds remaining. Texas Southern leading by a score of 7-3. Once again, we are in the midst of another weather delay, inclement weather and lightning. Our special guest is one of the greatest players in the history of Prairie View A&M University, Clem Daniels, a product of McKinney, Texas. Go ahead, I didn't mean to cut you off, Clem.
No, it was just, and to watch that procession of traffic, Auburn alums coming at me. I came back and I told our Prairie View people, and I've told every year I use that as an example. Bumper to bumper traffic for 40 miles. Auburn graduates going back home after their homecoming game.
Okay.
That's the kind of response we must get from our alums.
Okay.
Whereas we support all of the tentacles, and the greatest ambassador for any university is your football program. There's no question about that. But you have to support it, and you have to go and you have to be there all the time. Just like all the alums, not only just here in the Houston area, but in every sector of the state of Texas, we must come back for homecoming, for our classic games. We must support our programs, because if we don't support our programs, nobody else is going to support them. We have to be proud of our heritage, proud of our institutions, and we must step forward with our dollars and with our persons. We have to be there. You can't just send people a check. You have to go and you have to be a part of the institution through your National Alumni Association.
Well, Clem, this gentleman that just got mic'd up, of course, some Panther fans heard from him early. I know you were instrumental in securing the services of this gentleman to your left that led this team to a SWAC championship in 2009. The reason I'm wearing this jewelry, by the way, right now, and the coach as well. I'm speaking to none other than Henry Frazier. Coach, welcome back, first of all.
Yeah. Well, I came back. Clem's lady brought me down here. Said Clem is doing an interview, so we have a delay. I'm actually broadcasting the game, but I had to come in here and see him, say hi to him, let him know I love him, I appreciate him so much, and just wanted to see his face.
Clem, what first impressed you about this gentleman sitting to your left with his ability as a football coach and a leader of young men?
The first thing that I thought about when I met Henry was the fire that I detected from his personality. He was always on fire. He's always believed in himself. He believed in his system. He believed in his ability to get the max out of his athletes, and he believed that he was a winner. He knew he was a winner. And we interviewed him 1 week, and we had a committee of 3 that were doing the selection process. And after I went home, I said, as far as I'm concerned, I said, Henry Frazier is our man. Charles McClellan called me back. He said, Mr. Daniels, he said, I want you to come down here one more time, and I want you to take him in the back room here, and I want you to take as much time as you have to. He said, but when you come out of that, I want you to look me in the eye and tell me that we got the right man.
Okay.
I came back down there. We spent about an hour and a half in the back room just talking football and talking about the character in terms of athletes, talking about every aspect that coaches go through in terms of solidifying their position and putting together the system that you know is a winning system. And after I left there, I came back out and I told Charles, I said, Charles, he's our man.
Yeah.
No question in my mind about that.
I remember that day.
Let me also interject this part. I remember that you got Coach Frazier an opportunity with the Oakland Raiders,
yes,
your former team. Coach Frazier, what was that like? And I guess your appreciation for this gentleman aligning you with the National Football League.
Yeah, that was awesome. And I think what that did for me more than anything, it showed me no matter what level, Pop Warner to the NFL, football is a simple game. It's about blocking, tackling, and just executing. Because they were emphasizing those same principles at the National Football League. Things that you teach your kids at Pop Warner, Little League, same things you teach in high school, college, right, they're doing it in the NFL. So you can come out here and try to be a rocket scientist all you want, but football is not that hard. It's about the simple things. If you can execute those simple things, you're going to have a good football team.
Now, Clem, you were telling me that the late, great Al Davis was making a play at your guy. Explain that for the audience.
Well, when Henry got to California, and they were up there, I was about 2 or 3 days late before I could get up there because of business. But when I got there, I was looking for Al, and he was in there eating in in the cafeteria. So I went out and sat down with him, and I didn't bring up Frazier, and we just talking about football and how the Raiders are doing, and progress of the training camp and this kind of thing, and finally he brought it up. He said, "Your boy's been up here almost about a week and a half." He said, "I pulled him in the back room there, and we talked football for about an hour and a half." He said, he's a pretty sharp guy. He said, "I wouldn't mind hiring him myself." I said, "You leave my coach alone. You go find you one. You go find you one. Now, if you need me to help you find one," I said, "I'll do that." But I said, "That's my Prairie View man. There, you leave him alone. Leave him alone." Yeah. But he was very impressed with Henry, and he said he knows his game. He knows what's going on. But I knew he was going to do that because that's Al's personality. You know, he'll sit down and he will school you, and he will go through every aspect of the game, and he wants to know, what do you think of it? Mm-hmm. See, yeah. And that's part of his makeup. And because Al was a walking encyclopedia when it came to football in every aspect. He knew about Coach Nix before he met him. You know, and we were down and we had played the Oilers in 60, 61, and 62, and the 63, which was Al's first year, the fourth year. After all the game, Coach Nix came in the dressing room, and Al Davis, he was so excited to meet him. You know, he knew his whole history. Yeah. And we were standing there, and he asked Coach Nix, said, "Well, why haven't you been here before?" And Coach Nix was very diplomatic. He said, "Well, circumstances just didn't allow me to come." So he said, "But I'm glad that my boy's working out with you, and he's doing a good job." He said, "Yeah, he's doing a great job." And so that they talked, but it was on the plane flying back to California, and I was in the back, knocked out. I'm asleep, and one of the ball boys came back and said, "Coach Davis wants to see you down front." So I went down. I said, "What's going on?" He said, "What did Coach mean? What did he mean when he said that circumstances didn't allow him to come?" I said, "Al, up until this year," I said, "but Adams Stadium was segregated. He had all the blacks down in one end zone." Right. He said, "I can't tell you on that what he said about that, but that was Al." Yeah. But and Al really didn't. Bud Adams' tactics and beliefs were just a flip-flop of what Al's were. Al was one of the most genuine owners and head coaches at the time that you'd ever want to meet. And all of the bigotry and the things that were going on in the mid-'60s, because we were in the middle of the civil rights struggles. And but Al supported us in every department, in every way that he could. And he didn't allow any other team in the National Football League to set up any circumstances whereas it was not palatable to the black players on the Raiders. And he was that way all of his life. And I really appreciated him for that, and I gained a lot of respect for him as a result of that.
Okay, for those who may have just tuned in, we are currently in the midst of a weather delay. The 32nd Annual Labor Day Classic pitting Prairie View versus Texas Southern University. 36 seconds remaining in the first quarter. Texas Southern leading by the score of 7-3. Coach Frazier, you got to get out of here.
Yeah, I had a little work to do. I am commentating on the game as well, but I couldn't let this opportunity pass, without coming in and seeing Clem. And now I see Mr. Purry done came in. Roy Purry, another guy. Man, these guys, man, I just love Prairie View, boy. I'll tell you. I mean, because I can stand here and overlook this all day long. They almost had me in tears yesterday, and I got a tour with Ashley and KJ, my quarterback. We went through everything, and man, I'll tell you what, this is first class. It personifies what Prairie View has always been, and now to couple with our athletic facility. I say our because I do have a degree from here too.
Absolutely.
Now it's second to none, and it always was, in my opinion, the best looking HBCU campus. But now I say this is one of the better looking campuses of any college and university in the country, because everything is here. You take one exit and you got everything that the university has to offer off of one street. We're not having to go over here, take a shuttle over there, things like that. This is the vision of a lot of people, the labor of a lot of hard work, and I'm just so happy I had a little bit to do with it, just a little bit. Clem, Roy, guys like that, Charles, Dr. Wright, guys like that who actually believed in me, allowed me to come in and just put a little print on Prairie View's history. I'm forever indebted to these men.
What a perfect tie-in, man. You're getting good at this radio stuff. The gentleman that's about to follow you is principally responsible, certainly a significant cog in this machine as far as these new sports venues are concerned. And we're speaking of Roy Perry. Roy will be mic'd momentarily. But, Clem, I know you have to go too. I know you have some other obligations. But your interpretation of a guy like a Roy Perry, the head of the Prairie View A&M Foundation, and before we actually get him mic'd up, and his contribution to what we're now witnessing.
You know, it's one of the things that I have appreciated from Roy, and even before I met him, was the fact that he's a Prairie View graduate who come from corporate America. Okay. And he was high up in corporate and Dell Corporation. There's no question in my mind about that. But he's a man who understands all the aspects of what it takes in order to build a solid alumni to support the university and all the programs that we have to establish here. And we're in our infant stages in terms of establishing those institutions too, because we've always had them, but we've never perpetuated them to the degree that they need to be.